This is a public service announcement. The Winter of Care and Repair Challenge is kicking off on the 21st of December, which is not very long away. I used its imminence as an excuse to talk to the challenge's creator, Jeanna Wigger, who is a mending expert and author, about the wider impacts that participating has had for her. Jeanna tells me how it's helped her shift her consumption habits, change her perfectionism, and reframe her ideas around productivity. Maybe it'll do something similar for you. So stick around a few minutes, you know the drill. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 17 years and am the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge, Me Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate and ecological crises, and I'm looking at the way that my lifestyle contributes to them. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you join me in this journey. Hello, gorgeous listener. How are you doing? Thanks, as always, for giving me your ears for a bit. I promise not to abuse them. So thanks also to all the lovely people who took the time to send messages and leave comments about how much you enjoyed last week's episode. That was the one where myself and my pal, Lindsay Ashworth-Fraser, we got pretty open about our lives and our style crossroads. We definitely didn't claim to have anything sorted, but tons of you let us know that the topics and our experiences really resonated with you. Or at least it led you down your own thought trail, which you found to be really useful. So my favourite response was from Check Your Thread patron Rian. Rian wrote a much larger comment, but this is the first bit. I also especially loved this week's episode. Normally, I prefer the ones that are more focused on specific information or strategies, but this one somehow felt like just a lot of things that needed to be said, and I appreciated the opportunity to listen in and think my own versions of those thoughts. Thank you for that, Rian. Check Your Thread patrons are the absolute best, the wind beneath this podcast swings in so many ways. And this week I'm so grateful to Jamie and Sandra who signed up to financially support the podcast. If it weren't for the patrons, I wouldn't be able to spend the roughly 20 hours per week it takes to make this podcast. So thank you so much to all the patrons for allowing me to do so. If you're interested in helping keep this podcast getting made, please head to patreon.com/checkyourthread. So let's get stuck in with this week's episode. It's unlikely that you haven't heard of the Winter Care and Repair Challenge if you're a regular listener to Check Your Thread. But if you're not a regular listener or you'd like a reminder, please do go and listen to episode 115 and then come back to this one. I've linked to that episode and every single other one that Jeanna has featured in the show notes, which depending on which app you use, you might be able to access in the description in your podcast app right now. Also in the show notes /description, you'll find a link to where you can access a free Winter of Care and Repair tracker sheet, which was created by awesome and generous Check Your Thread patron Martin. What was I saying about Check Your Thread patrons being amazing? So the link to access it is in a post on the Check Your Thread Patreon feed, but you do not need to be a patron of this podcast or a patron of any other Patreon creator to view the page and access the tracker. The tracker can work as either a to-do list or a to-da list, depending on your preference. Thanks again so much, Martin, for making it available to everyone for free. So this conversation is one of those you might want to listen to a couple of times. I definitely took away different poignant parts over a couple of listens. I love how Jeanna talked about learning to move the bar on what constitutes success and how it helped her challenge and even dismantle some of her unhealthy relationships with consumerism, perfectionism, and perceived productivity. I hope that you come away with your own takeaways, and as always, I'd love to hear what those are, so do get in touch with me in one of the ways in which people get in touch these days. So until next week, when we've got a more directly practical dose of Winter of Care and Repair inspo, take care of yourselves, get ready to take care of your belongings, and enjoy. Hello, welcome back to the podcast for your 70th appearance on Check Your Thread. Thanks as always for giving me some of your time.
Absolutely. As always, it is great to be here.
So for those who may be very new to the podcast, please can you remind us who you are, where you are, and what fills your days?
Right. Yes, I am Jeanna Wigger. I am currently, as of this week, now back down in the south of Spain, where we're just getting settled in. My days are filled with
unpacking,
Spanish bureaucracy, unpacking, a lot of mending, and generally just sort of trying to wade through life as a foreigner in Spain.
And also promoting your amazing book.
And also promoting our amazing book, yes, Stitch It, Don't Ditch It, which I wrote with Mary Morton. Available anywhere you can find books in paper and ebook format.
Amazing. Awesome. So we are talking about the Winter of Care and Repair, which is very close by now. And we've discussed the Winter of Care and Repair a number of times before on the podcast, but this time we're going to go deeper and broader into the topic of winter care and repair than we've done in previous conversations. So if anyone wants to get into the real nitty-gritty about what the challenge is and how they might like to participate, I'm going to suggest that they go and listen to episode 115, and I'll link to that and all the other episodes that you've been on in the show notes so people can go back onto that. But before we jump into today's conversation, just to briefly remind us, what is Winter of Care and Repair and how can we participate if we choose to do so?
Yes, so Winter of Care and Repair is a seasonal sort of personal project that takes place during the astronomical winter, so between winter solstice, which this year is on December 21st, and it ends on the spring equinox, which is March 20th. And it's a project where people basically care for and repair their possessions, their belongings in some way or another during that winter season. So you get to make your own plan. You get to decide how you want to participate.
What's a classic version of how someone might participate?
So classic version for me has been each day to do some tiny act of care or repair. That might be 3 stitches on a stock darn, or it might be working on repainting the bathroom, but some little thing each day. Other people will maybe have kind of a list of things that they want to do to accomplish during the season, and so where it's not tied to a daily action, but they have kind of their list of 4 or 5 or a dozen things that they want to accomplish during the season, and just sort of slowly plug away on those tasks during the long, dark winter season.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. I keep looking around and noticing things that really need sorting out. And I'm really looking forward to I don't want to say the excuse, the prompt, the push to finally get on top of them, including like the broken bathroom door handle. And actually also, I think we need to get a surveyor to check the external wall of our house, which seems to be shifting. So I'm going to go big this season,
yes.
As well as also like look around and find the socks that have a hole in and things like that as well.
Yeah. I mean, all of those examples sound like things that I have done, that other people have done during Winter of Care and Repair. It's a really good excuse to tackle the big looming things. It's also a really good excuse to just be like, oh, this button's kind of wobbly. I'm just going to go ahead and sew this on right now because...
Tick, done.
Yeah.
I love it. Amazing. So actually next week's episode is also going to be about the Winter of Care and Repair, and we're going to be hearing from lots of other people about the things that they plan to care for and repair throughout the month. So if anyone listening is looking for extra inspiration, because I always find it really interesting to hear what other people are up to, and the posts that you often share via Instagram throughout the challenge I find so interesting, because there's often things that are like, I didn't think about like trying to fix that handle of that thing. So yeah, I'm hoping that that will provide an extra dose of inspiration as well. So when we were messaging back and forth in advance of this recording, I asked you what you wanted to talk about this time, seeing as we've talked about it pretty thoroughly in previous episodes, and you said you were thinking about how mending, mostly via Winter of Care and Repair, has influenced your relationship with consumption, perfectionism, and productivity. So that sounds amazing. I would like to just go through that basically. So let's just go through those 3 topics and find out how each of those relates to you, and how the invention of the challenge and how participating in the challenge has helped you make shifts in each of those areas. Does that sound okay?
That sounds excellent. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's get stuck in. Let's get stuck in with a biggie: consumption.
It is a biggie.
So what's your relationship historically been with consumption? How has the Winter of Care and Repair challenged or changed or not your relationship with it?
Yeah, so I've always, I don't know, I've been a person existing in this society as an adult for a few decades now. And while sort of sustainability has always kind of been, I've always had an awareness of it. I definitely went through some phases kind of in college years, young adulthood, where there were lots of trips to Target. There were lots of rather predatory credit cards that, over years really led to a lot of mindless shopping and just consumption of things to have things. I mean, like so many of us, I don't think this is anything that's unique to me. I think that a lot of people have kind of gone down the same path, and it's just an easy thing to do, right? Because it's sort of what society tells us we should do. So
absolutely.
I graduated from grad school. I was 25 probably, and I had close to $20,000 in consumer debt on top of close to $80,000 in school student loans. So, there was just lots of like, you go shopping and you buy cute going out tops, and school is really hard, and it adds up. Yeah, it adds up really fast.
Do you think that you were using shopping, I don't want to say using, that's not the right word, but maybe it is the right word, as a social activity, as a kind of like a kind of release mechanism from the stresses of your studies? Like what role was it playing for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, all of the above. It was definitely like an activity that my roommates and I would do socially. It also did not help that I worked in a retail shop in a shopping center when I was in college. So yeah, I was very much right there. But then it was also just like, let's go to Forever 21, and there it goes. So I mean, school was stressful, life was stressful. It was a social activity. It was I mean, very much like a retail therapy sort of thing to do. I've always been a creative person, so there was certainly like a degree of like buying things for aspirational hobbies, which I think that, it's not...
when you've not actually got the time because you're studying all the time.
Right. And so it was like, like there's that little dopamine bump that you get with the novelty of like acquiring something new.
I'm going to be into like jewelry making, and I'm going to get this.
Totally. Scrapbooking. I should do scrapbooking. Yeah, I mean, both of those, beading and mixed media and all of that stuff. I had all the things on top of like a mountain of fast fashion. Yeah, so I kind of finally, I think it was really like, I guess like 2014 when I read an article in a magazine called Taproot. It was an article by Katrina Rodabaugh. She wrote the book Mending Matters, and she wrote Make Thrift Mend. Anyways, she'd written this article about it was her Make Thrift Mend project, and part of that was buying no new clothes. And she talked about like the Rana Plaza garment factory disaster. So that inspired me I decided my New Year's resolution for the year was going to be just to buy only secondhand clothes. So that was kind of my first shift in 2014. And I also, in this article, she talked about doing like basically reverse patches with running stitches. And so I repaired like, I think that was the first thing that I had like specifically like fixed in a way that wasn't just sewing up a seam or hemming something. So I started doing kind of that reverse patching at that point.
Something a little bit more involved, a little bit more visible, a little bit more committed.
Yeah. Like specifically, I am mending this thing, not just like fixing this seam that tore apart. And also, I had paired that with buying just secondhand, which again, I kind of had shifted into like, I'd replaced shopping for new things with shopping for things secondhand. But, it was a start, so it was been lots of years of kind of like buying less, becoming more aware of ecological, social, environmental impacts of clothing and waste and all of those things. And so by 2020, the winter of 2020, when I started Winter of Care and Repair, I already sort of had like, I'd kind of been grappling with like my consumption and shifting more toward buying secondhand and buying less. And then when I started Winter of Care and Repair, was not the like consumption piece of it. It was not part of the thought process at that time. It was really just like, I want a little project to focus on during this lockdown winter. And I wanted something that was, I've always found like making things to be quite therapeutic. Turns out it's a lot more therapeutic than shopping. A lot better, like big picture. But yeah, I wasn't thinking about, changing my consumption habits when I started it. It was just something to do to kind of like give myself some structure.
Yeah. So they weren't linked in your mind necessarily to begin with.
No. And really, like, I hadn't really like consciously thought about that link until, I don't know, maybe within the last year and a half that I'd actually realized, like, oh, okay, like, I mean, there's been a lot of things though for me that have sort of converged in the last 5 years. We've moved 5 times in the last 3 years. So, every time you have to pack up your things, it's a really good...
Sure. You're like, oh, here everything is.
Like, look at all this stuff. And I feel like I'm not even buying anything, but I still have so much stuff. So...
Yeah, that's very confronting, isn't it, when you move?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So, that's been a piece of it too. But I think also when you repair things, you're interacting with your belongings in a different way than you usually use them. For clothes, you get used to, you wear them, you put them on your body, they do their job that way. But I think that, like, by actually repairing things, you have to think about, those clothes, for example, in a different way. Do I want to repair this? What do I want this to look like? And when you kind of invest that time and energy into it, I've found that I like my clothes more. I like the things that I have more. And I think that beyond just repairing my things, any old day of the year, what I think Winter of Care and Repair has helped me with is just like when I have that focused marathon time of like, for these 3 months, I'm really thinking about what I have already. What do I need to do to like keep this thing in use, to make it more useful, to prolong its life, to maybe I have to remake it. Anyways, I'm thinking a lot in a different way about the things that I own. And that, I feel like, has, having to do that for that 3-month period every year, I think I've kind of reprogrammed like that little dopamine bump that I get from acquiring something new, the novelty of either making something new or like buying something new. I've kind of reprogrammed my brain to get a dopamine bump from like the satisfaction of having fixed the thing away from this is a new thing.
Yeah, I've noticed that I've been getting a little kind of dopamine bump when I've noticed that there's something, for example, that I'm not wearing very much, and figuring out what I could do to change it. That has been a bit of like, oh, that's cool. Okay, cool. And then doing it. And then often there's a big gap between figuring it out and doing it. So it's out of action for a while. And then when you get it back, it kind of feels like it's a new thing as well, doesn't it? That there's a little kind of dopamine buzz. But it's better. It's better because you've shortened it or taken it out or you've, like, fixed the hole or whatever.
Literally made it your own. And you've taken it from that binary of, do I keep this as it is or do I get rid of it, to the third choice of how can I like problem solve and use my creativity to make this be something that will be more useful for me. And I think that's very rewarding.
Yeah, because we were talking, weren't we? I can't remember if it was on a mending meetup or via Instagram. We were talking about embiggening and enlittling. And
Yes.
There's actual Spanish words which are much better than the English, isn't it?
Yes.
What are the Spanish words for that?
Agrandar would be to make something bigger, and achicar to make something smaller.
Brilliant. Well, I'm doing both those things at the moment with 2 different pairs of jeans that I bought on Vinted. I recently engrandado, the jeans that were too small by unpicking the side seam. Thankfully, there wasn't any top stitching on the side seam, and putting in a strip of denim down each leg, and also putting a wedge in the back of the waistband, and that worked really well, and I wear those tons now, because otherwise I was just going to end up putting them back on Vinted because they were just way too small. They were like at least a size too small. And then another pair that I bought in the summer, because I'm kind of in between sizes in this particular brand, but I really like their jeans, and they were a bit too big, and every time I put them on they kind of fell down a little bit and I felt a bit frumpy and I didn't really feel that nice in them. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to make them smaller. So that's what I've been doing recently, and I'm so excited to have both those back in rotation. And I think that there's maybe it's just like there's embettering. It could be like the overall term. But I feel the same for you in terms of consumption. Like whilst you were talking, I was thinking of my own relationship with consumption, because I've definitely had periods of my life in that kind of late teens, early 20s where Because there is something slightly creative about consuming. It's about curating who you are, I think, through what you look like, how you're presenting yourself. And obviously we are trained very deliberately to do that through consuming, as opposed to doing that through making or altering or embettering things. So yeah, it's so easy that to fall into that belief that that's how you express yourself and how you are creative. And yeah, and all the stuff, as you say, all the stuff for all the things, because there are so many industries, aren't there, that have built up around every kind of pastime. Everything has been turned into this kind of industry, whether it's scrapbooking or jewelry making or sewing or knitting. There's endless things you can buy.
Even sports and athletic activities too. There's classes and there's gear and everything. So every kind of hobby that we can have has been somehow monetized and buy the new greatest thing.
And then it almost becomes this belief that you have to have those things. Like, for example, I've been going running a lot this year. I talked about it in last week's episode about why I've started doing more running. But in previous years, I've done running through the warm seasons, and I've always given up when it's got cold. But this year I'm like, no, I'm going to keep going throughout the winter, and I'm going to sign myself up to a 10K in the spring to force myself to keep going. Anyway, it's been getting cold, and I did my first frosty run recently, and I was like, what do I wear? Because all my running gear is geared towards more kind of warmer weather, So I was literally like, what do I wear? And I was thinking, trying to think I've got some very sporty neighbours, the Rachels. I'm like, what do they wear when they go out during winter? And I was thinking, do I need to get a fleecy thing and a zip up thing and then some sort of wicking thing but long sleeves and no. And I was thinking, wait, I've got a sweatshirt. Do you remember when people just used to wear a sweatshirt to go running? You don't necessarily need, things that have been kind of produced. But I fully believe for a second there that I needed to get, albeit probably by Vinted, but I needed to get a special thing. It was like, I have a sweatshirt and I can borrow my husband's beanie. I'm going to be fine.
Right. And if you find that it really, what you have really isn't serving you, then you can make that thoughtful, considered purchase. But so I think that's, you're talking about that shift from the solution is buy something to the first step towards the solution might be let me try what I already have. And undeniably, clicking buy now and having something show up at your door takes a lot less energy. It takes a lot less mental energy and time than thinking about what you have, problem solving, going through the steps to actually physically do the repair or the alteration or the acquiring, digging through the whole your whole wardrobe and seeing this thing that's in the back of the closet that I never wear for anything else. Turns out it would be perfect for running. That takes a lot more mental energy and time than just buying something. But I really do think that once you get to the end of that whole process, it's a lot more satisfying. So just hands down, it's a lot more satisfying.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm now wearing the sweatshirt that I've been wearing running, and I love it. It's very me. I made it. I chose the fabric. I love it. So when I go out, I don't feel like I'm kind of cosplaying as a runner.
Right. Yeah. Because if you bought that, performance athletic wear, high wicking moisture, blah, blah, blah thing, then, for one thing, a lot of times they're very plastic. They're very stinky.
And you're washing them all the time.
You're washing them all the time.
So that's all the microplastics that are going into your
and
every
I just don't like how that feels. And I found myself, I have this one running jacket that it's supposed to be for cold weather, but it's a terrible thing. It gets sweaty, it gets stinky. It's just very unpleasant. So if you have that thing, I find myself wearing my merino base layers. Those are what I would.
Yeah.
So anyways, the answer is rarely something new.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's talk about perfectionism then. So what's your relationship to perfectionism, and how has this challenge and mending kind of made an impact on that?
So do you consider yourself a perfectionist? Because I don't consider myself a perfectionist, but I know that many people do. And a lot of people that listen to this podcast I know do as well.
Yeah, I do consider myself a perfectionist. Maybe I aspire to be a recovering perfectionist, perfection-ish, maybe, is where I'm at more now. But yeah, I mean, always like very good grades in school, like on all of the extracurricular activities, and there were things that I was like not great at, sports being one of them when I was young. So I have always, it's not that I've like excelled perfectly at everything that I've done, but I've definitely wanted to like always do things well and have things be done and done well. So I knew that going into Winter of Care and Repair, I mean, and I tend to like extra stress myself out about like when things aren't done or aren't done well, and I just become kind of an unpleasant person. Like it's very important that the thing is done and that it's done well, and if it's not, then I just
Can you give me an example of how that's shown up?
I guess I think that this is really tied into like completionism for me as well. So like I really want to have something done. I guess an example of like perfectionism would be that like I've often had projects that I either wouldn't start or would abandon midway through if they weren't turning out very well. I rarely could just like finish something for the sake of it, being done. That whole done is better than perfect, right? I would often have just abandoned is better than
perfect is the best.
Perfect is the best and nothing else will do. So I knew like going into Winter of Care and Repair that right from the beginning that if I expected myself to like perfectly finish something every day for 3 months, I was going to be a very unpleasant person to be around because I would stress myself.
And you'd be doing nothing else as well.
Right. So and that like, that completely negated like the whole spirit of what I wanted Winter of Care and Repair to be, was like some fun thing to like focus myself on and relax. And so I knew that I needed like some guardrails. So for me, Winter of Care and Repair started out and has always been just a small act, daily act of care or repair. So it was never about something being started and finished in the same day. And that was really hard for me because I'm very much like a box ticker, a list maker, and like cross it off. And when it's done, then you get the prize for, you get to cross that off and feel the satisfaction that it's finished. And so it was going to be a challenge to myself to kind of overcome and put something down before it was really done at the end of the day.
Yeah, because a lot of the time when you're talking about Winter Care and Repair, you do give an example of like, you could just do a few stitches on a X, Y, Z. Is that painful for you?
Yes. Less so now.
So you keep saying it as an option just to more remind yourself that that's an option than as much for everyone else.
Yeah. Well, and like really, I've gotten much better about sort of like breaking things down into little steps. So even gather the supplies as like a thing.
Can you give yourself a little mini tick for each of those steps?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Ask me how I know.
You can and you get to make your own rules. So find the sock patch material. Check. Pat on the back.
That's it. Whatever works. So you could use your perfectionism and your love of lists to your advantage by like breaking things down into tiny steps and then getting each little tiny dopamine tick hit.
Yeah. And I mean, I've definitely done that. So like I haven't completely changed like my entire personality surrounding this, but what I've done is I've sort of changed my perspective on it, or changed the bar for success. And I think that like, one, it's made this project sustainable for me, and that it's something that I want to do year over year. And it also has helped me kind of like loosen my mental grip on done or pending. And I was thinking when I was like thinking about this interview, getting ready for it, I was remembering when I was really little, probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old, my mom taught me how to weave on like a little pin loom. And she like set me up with that, and I wove all day. And then I went to bed, and I got up in the middle of the night, and I went downstairs, and I haven't fact-checked this with my mom. I think it's possible that this was before we had electricity in our house.
What? Sorry, what?
Yeah. So I grew up in rural Alaska, and until I was, I don't know, young elementary school, we had a generator, and then we had these kerosene lanterns.
Oh, wow.
In my memory, I think that this happened before we actually got electricity. So I lit the kerosene lantern as a small child in the middle of the night, and I finished weaving. My weaving in the middle of the night.
This says so much about you.
Yeah, right. And so I also would be as I got older into adulthood, I'd stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning to finish a project. And no one's doing their best work at 2 or 3 in the morning. You're cutting corners, you're making mistakes, you're getting more and more frustrated. And I finally have realized, because with Winter of Care and Repair again, I was I can't be doing this. I can't be staying up to finish this repair again. This is is negating the whole point of things. So I kind of had realized that I wasn't really this middle of the night beacon of energy and productivity at 2 in the morning. I would just get very grumpy. And the sensible
you're
people.
really fighting against yourself at this point.
Yeah. So it was I don't know, it's been this whole big thing that I'm now kind of realizing okay, you can slow down. It's okay to put things down and stop. But again, I set up this whole project that made it okay for me to stop doing something. And it actually made it better, because I knew, if I have 3 months of cares and repairs to do, projects to do, I didn't want to run out of things.
Yeah, and exactly. You've got the time.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've been doing with those jeans. So with the mending meetups that I host via the Check Your Thread patrons, that's been really nice to have that time. Obviously, I have that 2 chunks of time every month where mending and altering is definitely going to happen. Yes. And then with those jeans, I spent one of them unpicking the hem, and then another one unpicking the side seam, and then I tried it on and did the pinning, in between times, and then at the most recent one, I then just did the stitching, so I've been breaking it down, and it makes it less boring, because sometimes, let's be honest, some of those tasks, they're not that fun. Taking in jeans, not that fun.
For sure.
What's going to be fun is when they fit me really nicely and I feel really good.
Yes.
That's the carrot and the stick. And it is also much more fun doing things in community. So it has been lovely sitting there doing some unpicking with some lovely patrons having a chat.
And it doesn't take that much focus and attention. You'll save the focus attention things actually sewing things up or measuring for a time when you're focused. But yeah, just unpicking. And I think that too, that the goal is having these jeans that fit me better. And I guess it's not unlike garment sewing too. It's I'm going to sew this thing and it's going to be great. And then you're I've got to cut out, I've got to tape the pattern. I've got to cut out the pattern. I've got to iron and wash. And there's all these little things that get in the way of that happy satisfaction at the end. But yeah, kind of reframing to slow down and be okay, here's one little step and one little step and one little step. And
yeah. And just be I pushed that forward. I should feel good about that.
Yes. But it's hard. I mean, I don't think I think it's a rare person who's just in kind of this society. It's hard to not just be focused on the achievement and the end goal and the getting that checked off. So
yeah. I also find some satisfaction though in, for example, having I've got a few alterations on the go at the moment, or men's. But then, I don't want to have to, rethread my overlocker or something. So I'm kind of got a few things in the go at the moment, but it's when I've got the right thread or the right needles or something, that's when I'll do the next bit. And there's a little bit of satisfaction in that as well. I'm doing this.
Yeah, you're kind of gaming your own system. You're working smarter, not harder.
It. Yeah. I've got the blue. Let's go for the jeans. I could do a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes more pre-planning. You have to kind of have a lot of plates in the air or whatever to remember okay, when I have this.
Not so much if you have it all just visible like I do.
Right, if it's all just piled up back here, yeah. Yeah. But no, I mean, that's another kind of lesson that I've learned, little hack for winter of care and repair is like batching things, right? Like, so just going through and thinking like, what needs to be sewn on the machine? What needs to be sewn by hand? Here's like, everything's ready, and you have it out and it's ready. And when you see it there, you kind of know that's what this needs. You don't have to revisit it all the time, and it's just ready to like spring into action when the moment is right.
So another aspect I was thinking about perfectionism I wanted to ask you about is because when you are mending an item, specifically a textile item like a garment, you're mending it because it's worn or torn often.
Right.
And that's because you've been wearing it, you've had it quite a while, usually, not always, but usually. Has there been an aspect of embracing a slightly less polished garment look as well? Do you know what I mean? Because often, like, you know, if we can do a repair, and often a repair will give it more life, but it's not going to resurrect it, is it? It's not going to make it look like you just got it from the shop again most of the time.
Most of the time.
Unless it's like literally just putting the button back on, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. And I think that, like, for me, like, through repair, it's already messed up. I'm not going to probably make it any worse. It may get demoted from, like, work clothes to around the house or grocery shopping clothes or whatever, but it's probably not going to be any worse. And so I think that, you know, and there's this is sort of a loaded topic too, because there's a lot of like different aspects of privilege and whatnot that come along with being able to wear visibly imperfect clothes. Yeah. Based on how other people perceive the wearers of those clothes. But, you know, for me, I am white, cisgender, middle class, middle age, educated woman. I feel like I have a little more leeway perhaps than people who are perceived to be in other groups or have different, don't have those same privileges. So I kind of think that it's, an opportunity to kind of, again, reframe, like, it's not less than perfect. It's here. I'm kind of trying to advance the conversation around wearing things that are not perfect.
That's a really nice way of phrasing it, yeah.
And I mean, there's still, you know, me with the privileges that I listed, I might be perceived as, and people have told me these things, that I might be perceived as being very artistic, being creative, being an activist, being a person who's very, perceived as a person who's really environmentally conscious if I'm seen wearing mended clothes, whereas someone who doesn't come from my same background is perhaps going to have
there's different associations and assumptions.
Different associations from wearing. It could be even something that looks the same mended clothes on someone else. So I think that's, I don't know, it's a tough topic, and there's not an easy fix. And I don't believe, and I don't want to imply in any way that, like, me wearing my imperfect clothes is changing the perception of mending, but I do think it's a place to start. And I think that kind of the more we can sort of separate ourselves from that perfection in the situations that call for it. Not every situation is right, but I think that we can kind of be inching that conversation along.
Yeah. So we've kind of touched on productivity a bit when we were talking about perfectionism, haven't we? In terms of, like, you can break projects down. You don't necessarily have to complete a mend every single time you sit down to do some repair. And I was also thinking in terms of how, because productivity, so for me, I was thinking about how, I mean, I like to repair. I like to alter my things. Obviously, I make time for it in my sewing life, but it's often stuff, if I'm honest, I don't photograph, and I know I should do more, and when I remember, I'm very pleased with myself, and I will share it, because I do think it's really important to show acts of care and repair, because that inspires people, and it gets, as you say, it gets the conversation going, and you can't really measure that kind of ripple effect. But I'm going to be honest, they tend to go in my Instagram stories, not on my grid. And I feel like often people, sewers, makers, influencers, content creators, they are judged on their productivity. People are like, oh, you've made loads of things recently. Oh, they're so good, la, la, la. And they mean that as a compliment. I mean, that's going back round into consumption as well, isn't it? But I guess that when you're doing these kind of acts of care and repair, maybe they don't contribute to how you're externally perceived as a productive maker. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about grappling with that and accepting that, and that I'm mulling over.
No, I think that's a really valid point, and not an easy one to extricate ourselves from, because I mean, you can do the same thing with mending and productivity. I made it through my whole mending pile,
Yeah.
I mean, there's still like this.
It's like it's like quantifying things, isn't it? There's something about quantifying, like how many new things have you made this month, or how far have you got through on your mending pile?
Yeah.
Why do we need to judge our productivity in this way? Like, we've done something and we're a human and we've existed and we've put food on the table and everyone's alive.
Right.
Why is that not enough?
Why can't it just be like, I had a really great day today. I got to read a book, and I drank tea outside, and I wandered around the neighborhood, and I didn't do anything. But our society is there's so much value tied up in.
Well, but I would consider, as gorgeous as that is, I would class that as not a very productive day. And I know that's a me problem and a many other people problem probably, but like. Ugh.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's very tough, and I think that on the topic of winter of care and repair, it's like, for me, it's always been with that project. It's been more like just get through the season, because it has such a long time frame. I mean, there's like little wins that I celebrate throughout, and I mean, let's be honest, like. Like, we can't completely separate productivity from it, because otherwise we just have a pile of undone things, and you're not wearing the clothes that you're either making for yourself or you're mending. Like, so we do need to actually accomplish the things at the end of it. But I think it's more of I don't know, it's the journey, not the destination. It's like that I relaxed and like chilled out for 20 minutes, like doing some sewing, which I enjoy. Like, it's more about like, did I spend my time doing something that I enjoy? And, admittedly, not every repair, not every sewing thing is like purely enjoyable in the minute, but like, you get so much more satisfaction from doing something with your hands than scrolling on our phones, for example.
I know. And there's all these projects and all these things I want to mend and alter, and things I want to make and scrap things I want to do. And I'm like, I just spent 20 minutes on Instagram. I could have cut a pattern out, and I'm really trying to be a bit more mindful of that. Like, I'm robbing myself by this.
And it's maybe, with that, it's not like, oh, I wasn't productive with my time, but like, did that time have value to me in the way that I wanted?
I like that.
When I look back on those 20 minutes, did the time hold value? Not like, did I have something to show for it?
Oh, I'm absolutely stealing that. I'm 3,000% stealing that. Did the time hold value? You've blown my mind.
Well, I'm thinking about, I don't remember what interview this was, who you were talking to, but no, I think was it maybe Debbie with Misfit Creates? You said to her, if you have time to scroll, you have time to sew. And that has been seared into my brain since then. So
we need to write all this on Post-its right now, everywhere. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Also, there's always more fabric.
Yes, there's always more fabric. There's always more beautiful secondhand garments. There will always be more.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's amazing. There's nothing more to say. That's just now changed my life. So, in terms of your philosophy around mending now, I know that, for example, you created this really cool mending diagram that you posted on Instagram. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's touched on consumption and creativity and sustainability and a lot of the things that we've been discussing today.
Yeah, so this was something that I thought about like for a couple years before I finally put it into a clear format first in my brain, and then like once I figured out sort of how these three concepts sort of fit together for me, I like immediately sewed it onto fabric. But it's kind of been this idea of like how consumption and creativity and sustainability sort of link together. And for me, mending and care and repair is like the center of all of that. So like, if you think about wanting to be a creative person or being a creative person, which all of us, I think like all humans innately are. And I think that a lot of times consumption sort of is a bit of a proxy for creativity. We were talking a little bit earlier about like, wanting to like curate your home, your style, your things. And like there is an aspect of kind of creativity in, or maybe a fake aspect of creativity in like consuming things. But I think kind of where, consuming things and creativity, where those two things overlap, you have like, as when you maybe make new things. So you're wanting to be creative, but there's also that consumption aspect. So we make new things. There's creativity and sustainability, and the overlap there might be like upcycling something.
I think in terms of like being resourceful.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're still like making something. You're still like using your hands in that creative problem solving. And, with a sustainable aspect, maybe you're using resources that already exist, but you're still ending up with another new thing, potentially, at the end of it. And then there's like where consumption and sustainability overlap. And that would be like buying secondhand, buying from slow fashion brands, or from ethical factions. So that's kind of how, we want sustainability. We want to consume, but in a more sustainable way. Those two things overlap. And for me, like if you put creativity, consumption, sustainability, mending is right at the inside of that, because you're still being creative. You're still using like kind of this creative problem solving brain. You're using your hands to make something, to do something. You're in a way, like if you're repairing something that's broken, there you are in a way, you end up with a consumable thing in terms that you can continue using the thing at the end of it. But you're not actually like making a new thing that exists in the world. And of course, like that is innately sustainable because you're using materials that already exist. You're making them more useful, prolonging their lives, and still, getting to be kind of do that creative problem solving. So like that's sort of been the whole, like if I were to boil down everything that I've learned through Winter of Care and Repair, it's sort of like this, that like mending is in the middle of it all.
I love that so much. If it's okay with you, I'm going to put that picture in the show notes so that everyone can see really clearly that amazing diagram and be inspired by it.
Please do. Yeah, it's it's hard to explain in like a concise
it's more
way,
visual.
But I think it makes sense.
No, I think you did a great job. Yeah, no, I love it. And it does touch upon all these kind of topics, and it's all so interlinked. So thank you for trying to kind of unpick it all a little bit and explore it more deeply with me today. And it's so nice to hear more about you and the journey that you've been on, that Winter of Care and Repair has been a big part of. So thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Zoe, for the excellent conversation and the opportunity to share more about Winter of Care and Repair. It's been like, obviously, it's kind of become a big thing in my life, so it's super fun to be able to connect with people about it and share about it. And yeah, I hope that people are inspired to try some form of a project for themselves this winter in whatever way makes sense for them.
I love it. So again, I'm going to put all those links to the previous episodes that we've done together on this topic in the show notes, so people can listen more in depth to that. And where can people find you and what you're going to be up to over this next season?
Yes, so best place to find me is on Instagram at The People's Mending, and then I also sporadically share to my Substack, which is also at The People's Mending.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jeanna, and I very much look forward to speaking to you probably in 2026.
I'm going to guess maybe that'll happen. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, Zoe.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions, or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!